Now, we make choices every day to litter or not, for instance, but some choices are truly life-changing. Wendy Robbins has been documenting some of those big choices over the past few months.
Yeah, tonight she meets a woman from Derby who at 15 years old made a choice that would define her forever.
My name is Jasvinder Sanghera. I was born in Britain and I went to school in Britain. When I was 15 years old, I said no to an arranged marriage. I ran away from home, and that decision affected my life and the lives of my 3 children forever.
Jasvinder Sanghera grew up in a Sikh family in Derby. Arranged marriages were a common tradition in the community, and when Jasvinder was 14 years old, her parents told her they had found her a husband from India. Tell me about when you were first shown that photograph of your husband-to-be.
I was just a normal kid who came home from school one day, and my mother sat me down and she presented me with a photograph of the man. I said, "Mum, I don't want to marry this person." She just left it at that and put the photograph on the mantelpiece, and every now and again she would point it out to me and saying, "This is your future husband." The pressure mounted when I was 15 and a half. My mother would be impressing upon me that you will go through with this, and that was when I started to say, "No, I will not." And that was when my mother took me out of school and I was locked in a room at home. The thing for me was I'd seen it happen to my sisters. They would say, "You're no different to us, we went through with it, why are you any different?"
And how did you escape in the end?
One day I saw an opportunity, the front door was open and I just ran.
Jasvinder escaped with the help of her best friend's brother, and the two fled to Newcastle. Jasvinder crouched hiding on the floor of the car until she saw the Tyne Bridge.
Overnight, I'd lost everybody I'd ever known and loved, my family. I would come here and walk around aimlessly and look over that bridge often and think, well, if I just throw myself in there, who's going to miss me?
After months in hiding, a police officer persuaded Jasvinder to contact her family.
My mother's response was shocking. It was, "You stay where you are unless you want to come home, marry who we say, otherwise you are now dead in our eyes."
Jasvinder spent the next 7 years as an outcast. Then the tragic story of her sister Robina spurred her to come out of hiding. Tell me about your sister Robina.
Robina suffered horrific domestic violence, and we used to have a relationship in secret. And she would tell me that she's suffering violence, and I would say, "Well, go and tell Mum and Dad," and she did, but they would send her back and say, "It's your duty to make this marriage work, because of our honour." And in the end, my sister, 24 years old, she had a little boy who was 5 at the time, and she set herself on fire and suffered over 90% burns and died.
Jasvinder set up Karma Nirvana, a charity for victims of honour-based abuse and forced marriages. The majority of calls it deals with each week are from British-born schoolgirls and women. So give me an idea of the kind of calls you receive here.
Well, just this morning we've had a teacher call about a 14-year-old girl at risk. We rescued a victim of forced marriage who is now rebuilding her life. We receive over 400 calls a month. The biggest achievement for me has to be that we're saving lives.
Although Jasvinder sent her family photos over the years, they never forgave her for running away and, in their eyes, bringing shame on the whole family.
When my father died, I went to the house, and in the corner of his room on the wall, there was my photograph. And I thought, Dad, in death, you say 1,000 things to me, but you can never say them when you're alive. And I just think, what a waste.
All these years later, Jasvinder still has no relationship with the rest of her family. Her eldest daughter Natasha is getting married soon, but there will be no one at the wedding from Jasvinder's side. A sad consequence of a decision taken 30 years ago, yet a decision that has given her daughter choices that most of us take for granted.
That decision has given her a university education, independence, the right to choose who she wants to marry.
And I'm just incredibly proud of my mum for making that decision, even at that age, and running away and doing that, and being the person that she is today.
Well, not only a big choice, but a huge sacrifice as well.
Jasvinder is here with us now, of course. And we can see from that film, Jasvinder, 30 years on, it's still very hard for you to come to terms with, you know, your decision and what have you. So how often do you think about that moment? You know, you say that open door and you ran through it. How often?
Well, the decision I made when I was 15 is a decision that stays with me every day of my life. It impacts on me, my children, because they are also disowned. You know, I've seen my family who will physically cross the road and ignore me if they see me. And, you know, so it never leaves you, ever.
Are you in contact then with any members of your family now?
Only one member of my family talks to me now, but my new book, Shame Travels, took me on a journey to find my sister, whom I'd never met in my life before in India. So it was a completely new door. And here I have a sister who was born and raised in India that fully accepts me for who and what I stand for, what I am, yet those born here in the UK don't.
Sorry, what about your own children then? Do they keep in contact with your children?
No, not at all. My daughter Natasha is getting married, and no member of my family will be there bar the one person that speaks to me.
And you still feel that you made the right decision?
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. You know, one thing I didn't know when I was 15, what I know now is when I was making that decision, I was making it for my children in the future. And I mean, there are successful arranged marriages out there. But for those, you know, maybe in a very difficult situation at the moment, if they're being forced to marry, what advice would you have for them? Well, clearly there are options now and choices. You know, there is help available. There is no reason for anybody born here in the UK to be going through with a forced marriage. It's extremely difficult because this is your family doing it to you. I understand that. But I'm living proof you can do it, and there are many more like me. So call helplines in confidence and find help. Tell somebody you trust.
How much of a problem then is this in Britain?
Well, what the government tell us, and I fully support them with this, is that we're dealing with the tip of the iceberg, but beneath the iceberg there are hundreds and thousands of British-born subjects who are at risk. Okay, well, thanks ever so much indeed, Jasvinder, for that lovely film that you made as well. A real eye-opener, I'm sure, for many.